the other thing that we see, the other trend that we see is like with just all of these, special effects driven movies. I mean, something like Transformers, which is just the level of crudeness on display. And when I say crude, I don't mean technically. It's technically very accomplished, but I just mean a certain crudeness of spirit in Michael Bay that there's nothing too base for him to put up on screen from a movie where like virtually all the women are dressed like strippers to getting the main character's mother like high on dope so that I mean it's just you're just looking at this you're just like who is this for? Like what does it say
It's
about
for
the audience?
13-year-old boys, right?
Yeah, I don't know. Like, I feel like look, I was a 13-year-old boy, and I'm the same guy as well who has like a certain fondness for those 80s sex comedies. I mean, they're releasing Hard Bodies. They're releasing the Hard Bodies and Hard Bodies 2. They're re-releasing them, and like
Oh, thank God.
a lot of those like 80s sex comedies, at a time like where you had all these tax shelters, and so you could get these like, cheap movies that were, a lot of like TNA and get people to the theaters. But I feel like at least those movies knew what they were, and you've got Michael Bay trying to mash all of this stuff together to a certain point, like where you're saying, like, well, not only is there no respect for the characters, but you're just like, is there any respect for the audience? When
Of
you're
course there isn't.
I've never seen
There
a Michael
isn't.
Bay movie, so I'm just going on what I've heard.
No, man, he's
What
just
that
like
guy's telling
throwing.
me.
That guy's throwing chum from the bucket into the ocean with him. Here you fucking morons go. You want some fighting robots and some girls in bikinis? Here you go. Lap it up, you morons. I'm
Well,
taking this all to the bank.
Do you think he's that cynical though, or is he like feeling it? Does he think he's like making something of merit?
Do you think that he's like sitting there on the Transformers 2 set thinking he's making Godfather 2?
I can't
don't.
answer that because there's
I-
certainly is it impossible for you to imagine someone in the world who would sit there and sincerely want to make that movie and think that they were making a real credible piece of art? I mean,
I
for
think
me,
that
the
as
answer is
he's-
yes.
as
So
he's
it might as
sitting
well be
as,
him.
I guess. I think as he's sitting in the director's chair, he's got a stripper on his lap giving him lines of coke, and they're both laughing all the way to the bank. That's what I think.
Look, I mean, to me, I just feel like, I guess the thing I come back to is, it's not that, because a lot of people, when you criticize movies like Transformers or Transformers 2 on this basis, the thing they come back to you with is like, well, not everything has to be an Oscar movie, or not everything has to be serious
Right.
or whatever. I'm like, that's not the point. But I'm saying it's like, look at Die Hard, look at the first Lethal Weapon, look at
Like
the
Jurassic Park,
Jurassic Park, The Matrix.
All great movies. All great movies. Every
that's what-
example you're giving here is great.
And what
And
I'm
yeah,
saying is,
but
like,
there's
why
a
can't that
difference.
be the floor as opposed to the ceiling?
Well, yeah, right.
I don't even get this. Matt says Transformers 3: The Legend of Curly's Gold 2. Why does that sound familiar? What's
That's-
Curly's Gold?
Oh my goodness. No, but that's what I'm saying is, like, at a certain point you're just kind of like, it just becomes, we can do anything in special effects, we can throw anything up on screen, we don't really have to try that hard. And it's not everyone. I mean, I thought there was a fair amount of stuff that was clever and engaging about the Star Trek reboot.
I really like the Star Trek reboot, but of course I'm not even remotely a Trekkie, so none of that meant anything to me.
There
Like,
you go,
I
and I'm
know-
sure that there are people who can quote that stuff line and verse will come back at you and say, like, well, no, it sucked for these and these reasons. But that was the thing. Like, I was watching Transformers 2, and it was like, and on top of it all, it was 2.5 hours long. And I'm like, well, if you're going to abuse me, that's one thing. If you're going to abuse me for
Yeah.
longer than 90 minutes, I guess it's my fault because I sat there rather than left. But it was just like,
Yeah.
like I said, like a certain depressing crudeness of spirit, like where you're just kind of like, you can't even, like, is this even a frat boy mentality or something? Like, it's just like, I'm gonna
Yeah.
push I'm gonna ram stuff in your face that I think is gonna, make your eyeballs jump, and then I'll do it
Yeah.
again ad nauseum. I don't understand that mentality, but it's also the highest grossing movie of the year, if I'm not mistaken.
That's just so depressing. I've heard that from a lot of people, though, and I didn't see it, so who am I to talk? But from people who I know who saw it, who were Transformers fans going in, they felt like it was very much like an assault on them, an assault on their senses. I have one friend who took his wife and his kids. The whole
man.
family are fans of Transformers, and he said when they got out of the movie, they were all in a bad mood, just because. And not just because the movie was bad, but they felt like they had been like violated, just because it was so.
Why didn't they
assaulting
walk
on their
out
sense.
then? Like, fuck them. They have themselves to blame.
Well,
Like
sure,
that's an art
but
form. Walking out of a shitty movie, like you're not in prison there.
I agree. Well, I feel the same way now, and I had to learn it over years about books as well. I've learned that it's okay to put a book down that you're not enjoying. But I used to feel the sense of responsibility, like, well, I've committed. I'm stuck with it. I know there's 600 pages to go, and I'm just going to fucking eat it every night before I go to bed, like bad medicine.